In this video, we're going to add a handle to this sledgehammer. Now this sledgehammer, along with this other hammerhead, were found in my dad's garden. These things were just completely rusted, and I wish I had been able to video the process to remove the rust. I don't know if you can see between the claws there, but there's some rust in there that I couldn't get out. And he does have another sledgehammer head that is just as rusted as these were, and maybe I'll get a chance to film the process to remove the rust when I repair that one. In the meantime, I've promised him that I would replace the handle on this sledgehammer and return it to him. This was a couple of weeks ago, and he keeps bugging me about it, so I finally have some time to get it done and get this project off my bench. Now, this hammer is going to only see some light use. He only uses it to pound some sticks into the ground so that his various vine plants can grow on them. It's not going to see a lot of work. I've picked up this Trooper handle kit from Tractor Supply. It's hickory, made in America, and it used to be 36 inches long. I don't need 36 inches for this, so I cut it short. And now, what we really need to do is reshape the head end of this handle to fit this sledgehammer head. Eventually I'll reshape the other end to fit the claw hammer, but that will take some more work, as I'd like to reshape that handle a bit more on that. As you can see, this is a 3-pound hammer, and it's got a touch mark from the manufacturer that I don't recognize. The flat side, with the marks, is the bottom. I'm going to put it down on this piece of paper to mark the shape. Now, I'm just using a dust mask today as opposed to my ventilator system, as there's really not going to be much dust or debris in the air, and I'm just hitting this with a quick shot of paint, and you'll see the purpose of that in a few minutes. The other thing is safety glasses. Always wear your safety glasses. All you need is one small piece of wood to pop up in the air and get in your eye to turn your day into a bad day real quick. Now, I'm not going to wear gloves today as I'm not working with any dangerous chemicals, so I don't think they're necessary. I'm going to take this primer that I've got here, pop it open, and try to paint through the eye to get a pattern of the size that I'm going to need. Unfortunately, as I open the paint, I literally snapped the top off the can. I snapped the nozzle off on the little straw that comes out. I'm going to try to use it anyway. We'll see if this works. And that doesn't work. That was a terrible idea. Oh, that can is shot. Brand new can of primer with absolutely no use, and now I've got primer on my fingers. Probably should have wore those gloves. And we've successfully made a sledgehammer stamp. Look at that. Alright, take two. New piece of paper. Put the flat side down again. This time we'll just use regular red spray paint, and we'll do the same thing without snapping the nozzle off. And here you can see that's how wide the eye of this hammer is. So we're going to cut this out. Actually, we should probably let it dry a little bit before we cut it out. Just wait a few minutes. And now that a few minutes have passed, and by the way, I've actually replaced my goggles. I haven't just put them down. Those were getting fogged. We're going to cut this, and this paint is still a little tacky. So we're just going to be careful, and we're going to cut around it. And once we've got it cut, you'll see there it is. It is now tacky enough to be used to be placed right on the top of that handle. Just like that. And now we can visualize how much wood actually needs to be removed from this handle. Now, that's not going to stick on there for too long, so we're going to take a Sharpie and draw around it so we have a better visual idea of how much we need to remove. There we go. And now we'll remove that piece of paper. Got those scissors sitting right there, would have been perfect, but instead I opted for a washer. And there we go. Now we're going to take the hammerhead, and you'll see this is how far down we're going to have to get this head down onto the handle so that the shoulders sit at the right place. Normally you could just cut this off, but I like to just sort of sneak up on this. When you're just removing wood, it's a lot better to leave a little more than you need and work your way thinner until you get to the point where you want to be, rather than try to get there quick and wind up cutting off too much. Here I'm just mounting my vise down to my bench, screwing it down. This vise was designed to sit on the other side of the bench on a system so that it slides back and forth. This whole workbench was actually originally created for another house that I lived in that had a larger garage, and I had fewer tools at the time as well. So there was less clutter that needed to be worried about. Unfortunately, it's just gotten tighter in here. So I have this workbench just needs to be replaced at some point, and at some point when I have time, I'll actually get to it. So this vise is it's a cheap swivel vise that I picked up at Harbor Freight a few years ago, but it works good. It's solid. I've never had any trouble with it. I don't know. I don't really do much heavy work with it, but it works for what I need, and that's really all that matters when it comes to tools, I think. So now we could put some leather right here between the jaws and the workpiece to keep from scuffing the workpiece, but I don't think it's necessary in this case. If you're really worried about scuffing, again, just put some leather in between the jaws and you're fine. And as you can see, I'm using a razor blade. The right tool for this would be a spoke shave, but I don't have one. And I was going to modify my block plane to use it to do this. but I had loaned it to a friend and forgot to get it back in time. So I opted for a razor blade. You can see I'm going towards my thumb, but I'm keeping my thumb out of the trajectory of the razor blade. This is dangerous. You really shouldn't do it this way. You could literally do this with files and sandpaper, but I'm used to working with razor blades this way, so I opted to go with a razor blade this way. If you're not comfortable doing this, don't. It's not worth slicing your thumb. The other thing that is important when you're doing something like this is to make sure that your blades are always sharp. You don't ever want to work with a dull blade. Dull blades cut and are more dangerous because they require more force, and they are what will wind up cutting you more than a sharp blade. Now, you're going to see me move the camera a few times, trying to make sure that I have a good angle. But this is the whole process. Shave, shape, repeat. And when the blade starts feeling dull, replace it. Turn it around. Use the sharper side. Replace it. Repeat until you're out of blades or you're done with the work. And if you're out of blades, go get more blades. Don't try using a dull piece or a dull blade because you will just hurt yourself. Here you see we're just slowly, slowly coming to the edge, bringing that narrower and narrower till we shave it down. And this is it. This is all there is. This altogether, I want to say, took me a total of about 2 hours of shaping. And turn your work so that it's comfortable to work with. Don't ever try to work in an awkward position if you can avoid it. There are times when awkward is the only way you can work. But in a situation like this, it's better to work safely and comfortably than being lazy and not taking the few seconds to turn the work so that it's facing a more comfortable direction for your hands to work in. And so now you've test fit, see how much more needs to be removed, and remove. It looks like we still need a little bit more before we can actually get this handle to even start sliding on. And I say start because this is not a process that happens instantly. We won't get that handle on and then go, oh, we're done. It's a slow process. I wouldn't say tedious, it's just slow, and it's got some detail oriented work required. And you just want to keep taking it down, just slowly taking a little bit more away, test fit, take a little more away, test fit, just until you can get that hammer head on there. And once that hammerhead can get on there, you'll see that you're going to need to remove some more in a different spot that you didn't see before. Rotate the work, shave. And here's a new camera angle, and great shot of my elbow. But there we go. We're starting to get the head on there. And as you can see, the head leaves some rub marks. And that's where we need to focus our work on. And because it's not so deep and there's so little, I decided to just do this in my hand. And just remove gently, slowly. Get this cleaned up a little bit. And fit the hammer again. This time we're going to pound the hammer on. You're going to find out that this was not a good idea. I got that hammer stuck on a little harder than I needed. Now when you're removing the hammerhead from the handle, use gentle taps. Do not hit a hammerhead with another hammer really hard. That's how you break things. I then decided to just grab a piece of threaded rod that was sitting on my workbench, and there you have it. There's the spot that we really need to work on. As you can see, it gets wider there, and I really jammed it on. And you see all the spots where the head is rubbing, all that needs to be thinned out. At this point, it's time to replace the razor blade. Again, good, sharp razors are so much more important than any other tool here, or sharp blade in general. Using a dull blade, again, is just asking for trouble. As you can see, that just cleans up right away with a good sharp blade. Doesn't require a lot of force. You just get to it, get the job done. That's all there is. And another test fit and removal. More rub spots. More razor blade. Rinse. Repeat. Now you see those knives there in the bottom right hand corner. Those knives are some knives that were given to me by a friend of mine. He got them from a family member that passed, and they're chewed up. That's the best way to describe those knives, is chewed up. They would have a hard time cutting water. And I think for my next video, what I'm going to do is take out my 1x30 belt grinder and sharpen those up. See if I can restore some life to those old knives. And to be honest, a couple of those knives need new handles as well. So we'll practice replacing some handles as well. Something that I just need to learn how to do, and maybe we can go on that journey together. So here we go. Fit some more. Pound, pound, pound. And we're getting it up there now. Look at that. But we still need to come down that far. That's terrible, Lou. That's terrible. You were way off camera. Alright, let's take that down. And there's where the shoulders are hitting. So we need to narrow that out a bit. At this point, I decided, you know what would work great? A chisel. So, oh, maybe he wasn't at this point. Oh, here we go. This is the chisel. Turns out, the chisel doesn't work great in this orientation. I just couldn't find a good way to grab it and really hold it where I wanted it. So I just went back to the razor blade. Just put the chisel down. The next time I do one of these, I'm going to make sure that I have a tool that definitely works better. At this point, I've been at it for about an hour and a half, I want to say. And we're getting close. We're getting real close here. As you can see, we're almost all the way in. Gotta take a little bit more off. Some more shoulders. Some more narrowing of the head. And you can see where that hammerhead is rubbing. There's just lots of rub spots there. And we're going to have to get to that later. And we do. You'll see. There's okay. I think this is about where I start thinking that we're close to being done. And this is the wedge. And the wedge is much too wide to fit in here. But I can tell that it still needs to be thinned out a little bit because there's no gap for the wedge to fit into. This is where I start coming back and cleaning up more of those rub spots. Put it back on. And go to the bandsaw, cut that wedge in half. That wedge was way too big to fit through that eye of that hammerhead. We attempt to fit it, just to discover, nope, we still don't have a big enough gap. So we have to fix the wedge. Straighten out that tip a little bit. Remove that head one more time. Shave it down a little narrower. Yep, I think this does it. Alright, that looks like it's... Nope, not yet. Alright, that does it. So now we're going to get some wood glue. And the wood glue is going to act as a little bit of lubrication to help the wedge slide in. And once it dries, it will lock everything in place and keep that wedge from popping out. Again, as I said, this is going to be a very light duty hammer. This is not going to be used very heavily. If it were, I would have probably done a little bit more to shape it, and I would have used a slightly wider wedge. And you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. We're just going to pound that wedge in there, just give it a little tappy tap tap. And there we go. Oh, I dropped the tool. That's it. We have a sledgehammer handle. I took the top end off on my bandsaw to be close to flush with the top of the hammerhead, and it seems pretty stout. So now my dad can have his 3-pound sledgehammer back and put it to use in his garden again, and I can get this project off my bench. If you want, you can add a metal wedge perpendicular to the wooden wedge, and that will really lock things into place. But again, for the use that this hammer will be seeing, I don't think it's necessary. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to watch. If you like what you see, check out my other videos. Give me a thumbs up, that always makes me feel good. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below and I'll answer them as best as I can. And don't forget to hit subscribe, so you're always in the loop with what's happening in the shop. Again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.